Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the meaning and the power of the most important story in business. The one that answers why someone would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. We call it your capital S story. In each episode of Storylines Live, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your organization do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. Today, we're honored to have Josh Troche, the owner of Pedal Stomper Productions and a successful video and audio podcasting expert and a professor, talking about the evolving role of storytelling in business podcasting. And it's not what you might think. So, Josh has had a very interesting career. He didn't set out to be an expert in podcasting and in storytelling. He may have sold a few things along the way. I don't know, maybe trucks and some other things. He may have come to the concept of the importance of storytelling through hard-won personal experience. Today, as one of the founders of Pedal Stomper Productions, he helps businesses and leaders of all types get their story out there in a way that creates great results. Josh, welcome. And please share anything about your background that I might have missed, or maybe in your case, mischaracterized. Anything that you think our audience would benefit from knowing about you.
First off, thanks for the time today, and thank you for the intro. I love the way you did the intro because there's intrigue and mystique that you built into the story there. So that I absolutely love it. I started video. I've always tooled around with it, had fun with it. Started it as a way to help me sell semi trucks, and ended up with a YouTube channel that I would tell the story of like why a truck is built the way it's built and yeah, helped me sell trucks. And then when someone walked into my office one day and he's like, "Hey, Josh, so good to meet you." And I'm like, "Who is this guy?" He felt like he knew me. And it was because I'd spent so much time just talking and telling the stories.
That's awesome. I really like that about your journey, and we're going to dig much more into that as we continue with the episode. Josh, one of the things that we always do in an episode of the podcast is ask our guests of those four questions that the capital S story answers, which is most important to you today? And you gave me sort of a hint of which of it is. It's partnering. And why is that?
Really, to me, it's really that link that you can't do this all on your own. The other thing is like before we got on here, we talked a little bit about perspective
Mhm.
and seeing the perspective from not just your place, but your client's place and everyone else's place. That partnership is so key in doing that. And it's why to do everything on your own is, I don't want to say it's a fool's errand, but you're only going to get your perspective. To bring in partnerships is going to give you someone else's perspective, not only on the messaging, but the story and the other items like that.
Yeah, you had this line, Josh, when we talked earlier, success is a shared thing. Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if we're successful, our clients are going to be successful. If our clients are successful, then we're going to be successful. And it's the other thing that we do too is we do podcast consultations. And it's if we build up our industry, it's just going to be better for everyone in the long run. So it really is. It's about building those partnerships.
So as we've talked about already in the episode, Josh, uh, your it's not a straight line path. You
Oh
didn't go
no,
to
it is not.
some sort of marketing school or whatever, or get a master's in marketing that led you to some sort of epiphany that podcasting is it. What is it about your personal journey that led you to form this company? You started to talk a little bit about the success story you shared when selling trucks, but why start a company to do this kind of work?
To me, I first off, it's the love that I have for it. I get to hear and talk to so many amazing people. I get to learn about so many amazing industries that to me is just the love that I have for it. But the other piece is too is I, I've spent a ton of time studying this, and it helps me with getting other people to tell their stories, and not only just telling their stories, but telling their stories to the right audience. Because so many people tell a story and they don't realize it's not to the right audience. So making sure that they're telling that story in the right way.
Mhm.
And we coach this a lot because as a public speaker, you can go out, you can stand up in front of an audience, you can start to tell the story, and you get a reaction from them. Like I see you nod your head like
Yeah.
yes. When you've got this empty camera eye standing at you, you've got to make sure that you're getting it right for the right audience. Because if you're not getting the feedback till later on when you open up your YouTube channel and there's no views.
Right. I think that's one of it seems like there's a flavor of the month, although maybe it's more than just one month in the marketing world. And certainly there's been different social media platforms that have taken the world by storm in succession. It seems to me that podcasting has also had one of those kind of moments. Um, so many podcasts, though, Josh, fail early on. And it seems to me in reviewing the work of your company that that's a hot button for you folks, that you have a sense that there needs to be more of a plan. Can you talk a little bit more about why that's so important in podcasting?
Yeah, the number that I always refer to is if I remember correctly, it's 84% of podcasts never make it past episode 15.
Stunning.
Yeah, yeah. And it's tough because then when you don't get that far, you've put a lot of work in because as
Yeah.
you know, the podcast is a lot of work, even with a production team, even with, I mean, a podcast, we try and warn people, I guess I would say that first off, it's not I'm going to be a podcast and I'm going to be the next big thing. You're
Right.
not. You're definitely not. So it's first off, it's setting expectations for people. The second off is it's teaching them that it's like everything else that you do in marketing and other items. I give the example of podcasting is like painting a room. If you go in and you cut it in and you mask things off, it's going to look good. Much like if you spend the time on preparation in your podcast, it's going to sound good. You're going to have a good message.
Yeah.
You're going to tell the right story. If you just go down to the store, pick up a can of paint, walk into the room, pop the lid off, and start spinning around, well, it's probably not going to look all that good. And so those are the things that we try and gear people up for to make sure that once again they're saying the right things, they're getting the message the right way. We've all heard podcasts where someone's asking questions that are just out of left field, and you're like, how is this part of your plan?
Right. And one of the reasons I asked you that, Josh, is because of what you said a few minutes ago about audience. Um, Prince Harry and Meghan and the Obamas, Joe Rogan, right? There, it's wrong. Well, let me ask it in the form of a question. Should podcasters compare themselves to podcasters like that, or should they be more focused on the audience they're trying to reach?
Oh, they should be more focused on the audience they're trying to reach. And the big reason why there's two things that I like to say with that. There's the Smart Less podcast, which is
Um,
Sean
love that.
Hayes and
Yes.
yeah, those guys. I mean, each
Justin
one of them,
Bateman.
yeah,
Will Arnett. Yeah.
huge following that they bring to the table in advance. And
That's
what are they doing? They're selling general advertisement to someone like Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, Coke, Ford, all these people that are just advertising to everyone. If
exactly.
you're trying to go to someone specific, you need to talk to that specific person. And when people get upset that they don't have 3 million downloads, I ask them a question. I say, look, if I told you that there were 8 people in a room down the hall that would like to hear from you, would you go and talk to them? And the answer is inevitably yes. And then I'm like, why won't you record the podcast then?
Wow. That's great. I love what you just shared there, Josh. It's not all of us need 3 million downloads. Okay, it would be fun, right?
Oh yeah, feels
But
good.
depending on what we're trying to accomplish with a podcast, we need to get in front of the right people at the right time with the right message. Which leads me to ask this question. Obviously, this is a podcast all about storytelling and business. What's your take on storytelling and where it fits in the mix of podcasting?
If it doesn't have a story attached to it, it's not relatable. And I don't want to say no one cares, but you have to put this into perspective for people. You have to get this in a language and a setup that people understand.
Yes.
And story is how you do that. It's how you build interest in it. I always encourage people. I'm like, when you're doing the hook before a podcast, in a lot of cases, you have to do something that draws them in, and it's either a question that they're trying to solve or a story that's the cliffhanger. It's the same way television's worked for years, radio's worked for years. It's about the story. It's how you build that desire to want to know more.
Yeah, absolutely. And when podcasts really became popular and started to take off, it was the true crime podcasts that were driving everything, right? Serial and others, and
Yep.
I mean, and Murders in the Building now, the Hulu show with is basically a parody of these true crime podcasts, over the top for sure. But the point there is it's all about the story, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it truly is. It is the story is what draws people in, and I love it because it's where we learn the most.
Absolutely. And folks, we're going to dig into how Josh and his team do that in specific right after this quick break. All right, folks, welcome back to this episode of Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the capital S story, the one that answers why someone would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. And in this episode, we're honored to have Josh Troche, who leads Pedal Stomper Productions, a company that is devoted to audio and video podcasting. Josh, I want to talk specifically about what you folks do at your company. How do you help your clients?
I, one of the things that we do is there's two things. Well, there's two things that we do actually with it. Is one is we help give people their time back. Is something I always say. As you know,
Love that.
podcasting and the production behind it, there's time. This is not a simple, hey, I talked with someone and therefore I have a podcast. There's
Yeah.
a little more to it than that, as you've known. The other thing is like so many people don't realize what they need or what mistakes they need to avoid. And we've done this a lot. And we've made mistakes and we've avoided mistakes, and we want to make sure that we're able to help people in avoiding those. The top ones that we see are the like pod fade, which we talked about earlier in the episode, where like, I'll get to it. And like I said, it's usually episode 12. You'll see them skip like a week for episode 13. They come back for 14 in 2 weeks, and then 15 it's 3 weeks out. And you're like, that is where this podcast has died.
Yes.
Um, the other one is what we call is when the podcast will just lose direction. And in some cases, some of them start without any direction. So they're just like, hey, we're going to talk about stuff related to our industry. They aren't going to talk about what makes themselves special. They aren't going to educate people. They're just, so many of those things that I see that we help make sure that they've got those guardrails on.
Mhm.
The production side, and part of that too is that run of show. How are you going to start the show? You've got it down to a science. You know when the mid-roll ad's going to be placed. You know how to take that out. You know how to bring that back. You know how to start. You know how to do your introduction, and people are going to show up the same for that every time. Without some of the guardrails, without knowing that thing, they don't. I mean, they may start it one way one week. They may start it another way the next week, and suddenly the only thing that's familiar to people is
Mhm.
the voice, and they need something more to come back from that. I always give the example of The Price is Right. When we were kids, sick as kids, You knew exactly what was going to happen. The announcer was going to announce them down. Someone was going to lose their mind as they're running down the aisle. Bob Barker's going to say welcome, and then away they get. You just knew exactly how it was going to happen.
Right.
The
Right.
prices were different. The prizes were different. There was differences. You learned something every time, but the format was comfortable. So we helped the people with that. But what we don't want to lose, once again, is the story and the audience. If you try to talk to everyone, you're going to talk to absolutely no one. So that's why we help people to say, look, who exactly are you talking to? What are the pain points that you are trying to solve for them? And
Right.
and how do you do that? And once again, I mean, it's the same thing you guys talk about. It is that story.
Right.
It is how do we get to connect with people because you don't connect without some of those points.
Yeah, there's so many things I love about podcasting, Josh, but I often compare uh, whatever flavor of communications, 21st century communications connection, to basic human necessities. In sub-Saharan Africa, if you need fresh, clean water in a village, you need pipes to get it there. But the point is the fresh, clean water. It's not the pipes. Nobody stands around and stares at the pipes and says, wow, aren't these great pipes? And comments on the technical specifications. Yet when we get on social media or we get into 21st century marketing, it seems far too many of us stare at the pipes, if you will, right? And that can freak people out. Something like podcasting. I mean, this will be a 30 some minute episode. Uh, it takes time, as you pointed out, to plan a format and put it together. And what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you trying to reach? Where is it going to go? So there's some level of effort there. And as you described a few minutes ago, sometimes people just get on there and, it's kind of like joining a gym every January, right? You get on there for a little while and you realize it's harder than you thought. And of course, I think you and I probably agree about this. Podcasting is a great way to create connection, and it doesn't
100%.
have to be hard. So I know I'm kind of pontificating here. I often say about many things that you should hire a trained professional to do. Like, Josh, I could build my own house. I know nothing about building a house. It'd probably take me 40 years and everything would be crooked. So why don't I just hire somebody who knows how to build a house, right? And I think it's the same with podcasting. You can figure out all this stuff on your own, maybe, eventually, but why not work with an organization like yours where that's already been figured out?
There's something else that I want to go back to on your pipes analogy because I absolutely love that analogy. There's a great story that goes with it. Podcasting too is hosted through RSS feeds that
Yes.
you control. So I've seen so many people remember that one TikTok platform where it was gone for 12 hours or whatever, and everyone is losing their mind because that was the only place where they had their stuff. To me, the other thing that I like about podcasting is it gives you the ability to do the podcast. You can do emails with it. You can do so many other things with it. And once again, you're not going to get deplatformed necessarily. Could you get pulled off of YouTube? Yes. Could you get pulled off of Instagram? Yes. Can you get, I mean, if one of those pipes that you are using to transfer your water from one place to the other collapses, if you've only built something in one of those, you're out of water.
Yes.
You're a fish out of water at that point. Whereas with podcasting, one of the other things that I love about it is it's multiple pipes over multiple things. So if one pipe crushes or gets smashed or whatever, you're not totally out of water.
Yeah, I like the way you piggybacked on my seemingly insane idea about pipes.
I
But you're
loved it.
absolutely right. This is marketing or content that you ultimately own. If Facebook or TikTok or something goes down, or they change their algorithm, or what sorts of content, Google is great with that. They'll put stuff up there and then it'll disappear. And X, formerly Twitter, used to have vines, and those disappeared for a while, right? And if you were heavy into those things, you would lose your content. So, one thing I wanted to chat about with you as an expert, Josh, as we start to get towards the end here, what are some of the emerging uh, trends that we're seeing in podcasting. I've heard a lot about internal podcasts. Do you folks do that? And what's going on with that?
Yes, it's something that we're actually doing quite a bit more of. Is the question that I always go to, I ask CEOs is I will reach out to them and say, hey, look, if I went up to a random employee in your company and played them a recording of your voice, would they know it was you? And most of them are like, yeah. And I'm like, let's try it. And they're like, well, and I'm like, no, you realize they wouldn't. So internal podcasting has become much bigger because the C-suite seems so far disconnected from the company
Yes.
in so many cases that they people don't know who they are.
Hmm.
And really, as a CEO, if you want people to get behind you and your vision, which let's face it, as a CEO, that's your entire job is to get people behind you and your vision.
Yes.
If you're trying to do that, they should probably be able to recognize your voice. Now, the flip side of what we've coached on that is I'm working with one who's like, look, he goes, I get this. He goes, I love your idea. He goes, we are going to do a quarterly podcast. He goes, I'm going to talk for 45 minutes. And I said, stop. I'm like, no one cares 45 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
like, your boardroom cares for 45 minutes. Maybe the people right around you care for 45 minutes. I said, the ground level employees do not 45 minutes care. I said, they want to hear from you for 3 to 5 minutes
Mhm.
monthly. I'm like, if you do that, you're a winner. And all you have to do is you say what projects you're working on, what projects you're looking at, and what projects you've completed. I'm like, if you can list those in 3 to 5 minutes, they've heard from you. It doesn't need to be this big fancy thing. Hey, we're working on this. We just completed this and we're looking into this. I appreciate everything you've all done. I'll see you next month. Holy cow. Does that make people want to work for you or not? It's an amazing outreach thing.
Yeah, it's a great way to extend the reach of leadership and create personal relationships, right?
Yeah.
Because we are usually consuming these things one to one, meaning, okay, it's pre-recorded, but when I have my earbuds in and I'm listening to or watching the CEO, that's a one-to-one connection. People don't go and sit in rooms of 40 people to listen to a podcast. It's a very personal and intimate medium.
That is one I always tell people. I'm like, look, you are like as a podcast host, you're sitting in the passenger seat.
Hmm.
You're talking to these people, and you said the earbuds thing. I always it weirds people out, and that's part of the reason why I love saying it. People are inserting you inside their ear canal. It
Oh,
doesn't get much more intimate than that. So that's how you establish that great relationship with people. If you add the story piece and direct it to them on top of it, now you've got that winning combination.
oh, that's awesome. Josh, before we let you go, can you share a success story to give our audience an idea of the power of podcasting?
There's, boy, it's tough to say just one. I've actually, the biggest success story, I guess I'll say, is I had someone completely change my perspective on life when they were sitting across the table from me. It was someone that was an Afghan refugee. She was in the very last C-130 that took off out of Afghanistan.
Wow.
And she's like, I'm like, was it tough leaving? Was it tough going through the airport? And she mentioned a few things that I thought, okay, something got lost in translation because you and I, we think going through the airport, we're like hassle, TSA, carrying bags. She talked about seeing friends die.
No.
And suddenly I was like, oh, my perspective on life completely changed. I'm like, this is her story literally made me think I've had good days and I've had not as good days. I have never had a bad day. She had. And to me, that is her story on that was to me, it's the fact that we were able to help tell that was to
Mhm.
me the biggest success.
Wow, that's a great example, Josh. Josh,
Thanks.
what's the best way for our audience to reach you if they want to follow up?
My LinkedIn, I'm on there all the time, like everyone else. And the
Ah,
other one is our website, pedalstomperproductions.com.
excellent. Now you got to tell me Where did the name come from?
I actually used to race bicycles and I still do some car racing. So the feet have always been busy.
Well, there you go. On the road to success, right, Josh?
Thank you. Yes.
Josh, thanks again for being our guest on this episode of Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the capital S story, the story that answers why someone would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. And thank you to our audience who's been with us. We'll see you next time on the next episode.